Welcome back to this week's episode of the Catching Flies podcast. I am Stephen Burton. Joining me as always, he has a master's degree. He had a tough week in the NFL. He is the Greek philosopher, Pete Makatis. What's going on, Petey? What a crazy
What's up,
week
everybody?
we had.
Yeah. So my two favorite football teams, college and NFL, went out with a combined score. I'm going to do the math real quick. 96-14. TCU went down and the Niners went down. So, yep, it was a promising season in that regard. Championship game appearance for TCU, semifinal type appearance for the 49ers. Can't be too upset about that, but yeah, I always feel like you left something that on the table. But everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining us this week again on the Catching Flies podcast. We are kind of treading new water here. As you can tell, we're not going to make too big a point on it, but this is us. Sorry on my behalf. We are looking forward to starting a new chapter here, turning a page, so to speak, at the pod. And before we do dive all the way in, I want to thank everyone for being here this week. I want to thank you all for having been here in the past few weeks. Any new fans we have, we're greatly appreciative. You're seeing us on YouTube right now. If you don't mind, take that moment. Please hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and give us the opportunity to come back and give you all more of this content. And stick with us so you can hit that like button deservedly. We won't ask you to hit it if you don't like the show, but I think you will.
Absolutely. Well, what a crazy week we had in the NFL. So let's dive into it. Starting with the Philly and Niner game. Man, what happened?
I've always been worried. And this goes back to right before the 49ers hired Kyle Shanahan. He's got a playoff reputation with me as far as I'm concerned. And nothing too egregious on this one, but what did happen was Philly went for it on fourth down on the first drive and looked like they completed a pass down the sideline, and the record books say they did. And Shanahan didn't challenge it, and that was a problem. Whenever you see, from what I'm hearing, and I think you may have heard the same thing, is that they never got the best look at the replay. Okay, fine. But when you see the other team's receiver hopping up off the ground and rushing his team out to the, throw that flag. Throw the flag. And if it turns out that he did catch it, so be it. It's fourth down. That was your ball, and it can change the entire complexion of the game. It really can. Philly winds up scoring a touchdown. Purdy got hurt on the next drive, and it's not that he got hurt. He freaking basically tore his UCL, and he might have to have Tommy John.
That's what I read last night.
Yeah.
It was a complete tear.
You got to take the chance, Shanahan. And we were never in the game, even though it was tied 7-7 just outside the 2-minute warning. It just never felt like the Niners were in there. The Eagles were having a lot of success running the ball. I mentioned this last week. I said it specifically. I'm like, we don't give up yardage to one guy, but if you can come at us with 3 or 4 different guys, it'll pile up. And that's exactly what they did. And credit to the Eagles. They were the better team. I think they've been the better team for the majority of the season. The Niners did get on that big winning streak toward the end, and they've looked phenomenal. But even last week, I said they're a step behind the Eagles. And instead of being a step behind, we got stepped on a little bit. And, that's the way it goes. We survive. We move on. What were your thoughts on the game from a non-49er fan perspective? But let's hear from a normal person. From a non-49er fan perspective, what you think?
No, that first play, first drive, I was shocked. I thought for sure they would challenge that, because anytime you see a receiver getting up, literally going, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, you got to think something's up. And then they showed no replay at home either. So I was kind of curious about it. And then of course, after they run the next play, they show the replay. And then, Devonta Smith definitely didn't catch that ball. That changed the whole complexion of that game. It felt like the Niners really got a massive body blow there, or, the their chin checked, so to speak, and they just didn't recover. It seemed like Philadelphia's offense is it's a force. I mean, Miles Sanders had probably the best game he's had in several weeks. Hurts did enough. I mean, he didn't really do anything spectacular. It was just
Yeah.
the run game was so efficient.
Mm-hmm.
It really took the Niners out of it. And I was surprised. I thought the defense would show up more. They had some really bad luck, fluke plays kind of right out the gate. And it was just like anything that could go wrong went wrong. You know, guys getting hurt, the superstars getting hurt. Your quarterback blows his elbow out like the second drive of the game. Like, what's going on here? You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was just kind of felt like they got shell shocked and just couldn't recover enough fast enough on the fly. And let's face it, for a team that was starting their third string quarterback
Mm-hmm.
and then going to their fourth string quarterback and Josh Johnson, at that point, I didn't think they had much of a chance to me. And I've
No.
talked about this with a few people. The right move probably would have been a wildcat with McCaffrey and Debo at running back. I
I
don't know what they would
mean,
have had
you
to
can't be
lose,
prepared to do that. I mean,
but
I mean,
yeah,
it's just
had
at
they
that point,
practiced that or, you know,
if that's
I
a
mean,
discussion, you know it's already gone bad.
right,
I mean, Josh Johnson, fewer than 2 months ago, was on the Denver Broncos practice squad. You know, the same Denver Broncos that were one of the worst offenses in football, and this guy wasn't even rosterable for them. So,
right.
and God bless Josh Johnson, man. He's had one of the weirdest, coolest careers in football, but we didn't need him in that spot. And, you know, again, I'm not the most quarterback centric guy, but when you got a guy in the shotgun who can't handle the snap and then can't land on the ball, that was when the game ended. Because the
Yeah,
Niners
that was,
defense, contrary to the final score, actually did play very well,
they
especially in the
played good.
first half.
Absolutely.
We gave up the first drive touchdown, which again, if Shanahan was on his horse, it wouldn't have happened. And then we went like 3 or 4 drives without giving anything up. Philly just got those fourth down conversions because Sirianni knows how to coach. He knows how to go for it on fourth down and keep his offense on the field. With that, he got the best offensive line of football. I mean, what's the point? What's the
You
point
got
if
to
you're going to
believe
punt
it.
on 4th and 2 from the 40? I
Right.
mean, why do you have the best offensive line of football then? Let me have him, or let some other team have him if you're going to punt on 4th and 2, you know? So, and then it's 14-7. If we can get a drive going at the end of the half to sneak in a field goal, next thing you know, we turn it over. That third touchdown can't be put on the defense. And then they started with the ball right there at the 20. So, yeah, I mean, congrats on the Eagles. I did pick them to win this game at the beginning of the season. I didn't know necessarily the Niners would be in there with them. I did expect the Niners to win a division this year. I thought maybe we'd have some growing pains that we'd have to go through. We'd be out in the playoffs. I didn't expect us to go to the Super Bowl this year until, you know, we started making those moves to do so. Now we have no draft picks, so it's going to be fun. We have about 24 free agents. No exaggeration.
Wow.
Not all of them are big name guys, but a lot of names in there that have been contributors, and there's no way we can keep all of them. No way.
Well,
So it's going to be a year of transition, maybe. I don't want to hear none of this talk from anybody about trying to bring in Brady or Rodgers that they're going to make a difference. They're not. Especially Rodgers is going to cost draft picks that we don't have. I mean, I
they ain't gonna
understand
give
that.
them to you.
I mean, I don't know. You can only go 3 years into the future with draft picks. So we offer their 2037 first and second round pick, you know, and then they'll turn around and draft Aaron Rodgers' grandson with that. I don't know. I mean, so none of that talk. We're going to bring back the guys we have. We'll pick up a few smaller free agents, try to find some diamonds in the draft. The Niners are good at third and fourth round picks, better than first, second round picks sometimes. So, and then we got all the pieces in place. I mean, I'm convinced that if Lance played this year, we maybe could have been in the Super Bowl because he offers a Jalen Hurts style of dynamic running. And yeah, I mean, maybe the Super Bowl's a stretch, but we could have been in the same spot we are anyway.
I
And then
think
if Purdy becomes either a backup or a tradable asset, I mean, if you can turn the last pick in the draft into something, you
that's
know, some
great.
team's going to get fooled
Value.
by the fact that they got this far and they're going to say, oh, Purdy led them there. No, we led him there as a team. So I'd like to see a bad team take him on and see if he comes anywhere close to that level of success. I'm not dissing the dude. He did a good job for us, but He's a run of the mill quarterback that was on a great team. So if we
No,
can
I
turn
agree
that
with
into
you.
a first round pick, absolutely, absolutely.
And unless you get a a team to massively overpay for him, I think this year they've learned you've got to have a couple of guys that can at least throw the ball. So why not just keep him? It's not costing
You
much.
know,
He's a rookie. I mean, he was
it
a
would have to be
seventh
the right
round
offer.
rookie at that, right?
Yeah.
So keep him and Lance. Let him keep developing and learning the game and gaining more and more experience. But he's definitely going to bring back some capital for him. And you guys did trade most of your picks away. You're going to have some compensatory picks. So I think this team's going to be great for a long time. And you know, it's kind of fun to think like, what if Rodgers was on that team with those weapons or
Mhm.
Brady? But I know the misery of Brady going to San Francisco for you would
I mean,
be
let's put it this way:
devastating.
I
But
get tired of hearing about Brock Purdy.
right, and he's
So,
only a rookie,
and he's my quarterback,
and
and
he's
I
your
get tired of hearing about him. So, yeah, I don't like my team being distilled down to one player ever, no matter how good that player is. I just never. And the Niners are a unit. They're a roster, and I treat every
they
person on
really
that
are.
roster with the same amount of respect based on their abilities, But they're putting on my favorite team's uniform, and they're going out and playing. And you don't get just one player focused out of Pete,
This
you know.
team really got bitten by the injury bug at the worst
Always, but they
possible
have been for
time.
years. So there's something wrong. There's something wrong. It's
Whether
every
that's
year.
the trainers,
I don't
whether
know.
that's the athletic trainers or what, but they had the roster to win it all, and their defense did keep them in this game a lot longer than they had any business being in.
Hmm.
The Eagles came out throwing haymakers, and you just got to tip your cap and say,
Oh
you guys
yeah,
had a great year.
yeah.
You
We
made
ran
it.
into the
You
wrong
made it
team.
that far. You ran into kind of like a buzzsaw,
And even
and
think even if everything was healthy, I'm not sure we could have got through them.
I, it would have been a close game if Purdy probably wouldn't have tore his elbow up. I mean, I think the Niners would definitely put more points up. I mean, once they didn't even have a remote threat of a passer,
Yeah, that was
it allowed the Eagles defense to just hone in on the run. And then it was, I mean, Josh Johnson was brutal. I don't even know how this guy's on the team. Like,
because
he
he's the
couldn't take
fourth
a
string.
snap. He couldn't throw the ball. He couldn't land on the ball. I mean, but,
Yeah, there's a reason
well,
why he hasn't been a starter in the league. I mean, he's a guy that knows the system. He runs the practice squad real well. He probably did a great job in practice this week of simulating Jalen Hurts. I bet you he was invaluable to them in that regard. But
sure.
at the same time, I mean, I've always said most quarterbacks are kind of interchangeable if you're not at that very, very top level. But you have to be functional. And Purdy was functional at the very least. Josh Johnson sadly was not. So we didn't really mean to turn this into a 49er post-mortem, but I guess it was a
No,
little bit expected with me being here. Bottom line is the Eagles won the NFC Championship game. Congrats to the Eagles. I know a few
congrats.
Eagles fans that there's one especially I was great friends with in high school. I'm still in touch with them a little bit. Not like we used to, obviously, but suppose I'll get around to congratulating him eventually. But yeah, congrats to the Eagles. Phenomenal team. You make me look good at least. When I did not pick the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. I picked them to make it and to lose the Buffalo. So obviously that didn't come all the way through, but
Sure.
the Eagle pick was correct. So who are they playing in the Super Bowl? They're going to be playing the winners of the AFC Championship game, which came on later in the afternoon or evening, depending on your coast. And that would be the Kansas City Chiefs, who, in a rematch of last year's AFC title game, beat the Cincinnati Bengals. I think we mentioned this on the show last week. The last time there was an AFC Championship game rematch, the team that lost the first game won the second game. That was Baltimore, New England, 2011, 2012. Both games were in New England. Home team won the first one, road team won the second one. This year, that script flipped. The road team won the second one, the first one, and the home team won the second one. But yeah, the two number one seeds going at it. Kansas City, Cincinnati. What are your thoughts?
This was a shocker for me too. This whole weekend was crazy to me. I could not believe the Bengals didn't win this game. To be honest, I thought the Chiefs were pretty banged up. I don't know if the Mahomes thing's fugazi or what, because he looked pretty good. I've never seen anybody with a high ankle sprain perform like that, and just a week later. But this was more of an offensive letdown by the Bengals. Burrow did not have his best game. You know, he threw the offensive line just got obliterated, gave him no time, and forced him into a few bad decisions that resulted in turnovers. And Mahomes is just god of football. I mean, what more can you say about the guy, right? He found a way, despite like his top three receivers getting hurt,
Yeah.
Kelce having a back injury, his ankle. It's just like you line up the problem and he knocks it down. Like truly unbelievable performance. In my opinion, we won't dive too deep into it. They definitely got a little help, some home cooking from the refs, and all the memes going around showing Patrick Mahomes swapping his jersey with the head ref. It's pretty funny, but that you live with that, and during games there's going to be tough calls and you got to overcome them. The Bengals just weren't able to, and unfortunately they had a great year. They still have the building blocks to have they're set up to be good for a long time, but this wasn't their year. And Mahomes is back to the Super Bowl, and that this Chiefs team's they just keep finding a way to win.
Yeah, he's back and he's bringing his teammates with him because he's going to have a hard time beating the Eagles by himself. I promise you that. Yeah, I mean, sour grapes with certain fan bases, it seems. Uh, Nothing in that game came remotely close to what you may have seen in the 2018, I want to say, NFC title game, the Rams Saints pass interference incident. Nothing in that game came even remotely close to that. And even in that game, the Saints had every chance to win that game. When it comes to the NFL, I don't think I've ever seen a game that was strictly decided by referees. There's this whole argument that the referees are bad, and that's a reasonable argument. And that's a conversation to be had. But the whole referee should be full time argument is a very, very legitimate argument that needs to be had. But at the same time, they're not. If they're dumb enough to be bad referees, they can't be smart enough to fix games either. So you can't have it both ways. The one play that I think that had a lot of people's head scratching was when they stopped a third down, or they redid the third down. If that game was played in a COVID year when there was no crowd, they would have easily stopped the play. It was stopped, and when it just, they're a loud stadium at this point, and that's unfortunate. That's not incompetence; it's unfortunate. So, yeah, the Chiefs were better by 3 points, the same way the Bengals have been better than the Chiefs by 3 points the last few times they play. When you got two teams that play each other close, anybody can win. And the Chiefs, and a lot of people are saying that last play with a penalty, which it was a penalty. Maybe I don't agree with the penalty, but I agree that the correct call was made based on the rule books. We're talking about the Joseph Osai roughing on the sideline penalty. They still had 8 seconds left. They could have run one more play before I kicked the field goal. So that didn't necessarily end the game for them either. The Chiefs were the number 1 seed in the AFC this year. They won 14 out of 17 games. They lost Tyreek Hill, and it's hard to say they didn't skip a beat because they did, but they still finished with the number 1 offense in all of football. And if Hill was there, I think it would have been even more so, obviously. Or maybe Kelce gets less attention. I mean, who knows? It's Andy Reid knows how to run this team. You gotta close it out. And when it comes to the Bengals, I'm pretty sure that Joe Burrow has not thrown a fourth quarter touchdown pass in his playoff career.
Wow.
I think they've only scored 1, and that was the Pirine touchdown last night. I could be wrong. I don't think I am. I'm just kind of running this through my head off memory. But yeah, the Bengals are not getting into the end zone on the fourth down in any of their playoff games. And that's a problem. That's a huge problem. And we're talking about the building blocks for this team. You got Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Logan Wilson. All these guys are on rookie contracts. And they're going to wind up paying Burrow more than he's worth. He's going to get Mahomes Allen money when, quite frankly, sorry, he's not that level. No one is. Those two guys are a different level than everyone else in the league. And they're going to pay him and they're going to pay Chase. And they're going to take up like 35-40% of their salary cap between the two of them. And they're going to find out that unless they're smacking draft picks left and right, which is possible, they've been executing some good drafts lately. Their window's next season. I don't think if they don't get it in next season, it's going to be tough. But they went to the Super Bowl last year. They were a step short this year. Another great season. The way they started, were they 0-2 start the year, 2-3 at one point. They were kind of the Niners of the AFC. They came in hot, and they've won double-digit games in a row. And just like the Niners, they fell in the championship game round. So, congrats to a good. So we know more Bengals fans than any other fans. And I love watching the team. I mean, especially defensively, they play as a solid unit. Bengals fans, you might want to hope Lou Anarumo doesn't get a head coaching gig. You want to keep him around at least one more year. That dude's a G.
Yeah, he's very good. I'd heard rumors this morning that their offensive coordinator was getting some calls as well, so things could really get hairy in Cincinnati very quickly. The rumor is this offseason they're going to pay Burrow. They're going to go ahead and pay him, and it's going to a number in years is going to be very interesting because it's really going to tell the tale of how they're going to play the next few seasons, I think, because like you said, they lock him down for 12, 14 years for $480 million or whatever. That's a
That might actually
massive
be a
chunk.
Good contract because
Right.
it'd be like a Mahomes contract. It'd be a little more team friendly.
Yeah.
That would not create such a huge salary cap hit.
Right. They don't want to find themselves in a scenario like the Packers are with Rodgers, where he's going to account for $45-50 million towards your cap.
Right.
And I mean, the cap number came out yesterday. It's going to be, I believe, just a shade under 225 million.
It's a big number
this year. Yeah, it sounds big. But if you've got one guy hogging 25% of that in Rodgers, or if Cincinnati chooses to do that with Burrow, it's going to really affect, like you said, will they keep Higgins? Will they be able to keep Jesse Bates? I think he's probably gone.
He's gone. They drafted his replacement already.
Yeah. So, it's going to be an interesting offseason for Cincinnati fans. This one did hurt. I kind of hopped on the wagon the last couple of years with them. A lot of people we work with support them, and it's kind of hard not to just root for them.
Yeah.
But they are an entertaining team.
They are.
They the last few years has really improved the franchise as a whole. They've got an outdoor practice facility now, and it seems like the ownership is finally pouring money into the team. So as long as they got Burrow and Chase, I think they're gonna keep that duo together for a long time, and I think they're gonna be a great duo for a long time.
They will keep that duo together, but
great
if they
year
don't keep
for
the other
Cincinnati.
Pieces, without the other pieces, it's not going to go far.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. They've got to get a healthy, efficient offensive line, and they need to keep this defense together. I mean, this defense was an incredible tackling team and made plays when they needed to make plays. And, as soon as they made contact, they got the guy down. And that's just so big in the NFL because YAC, or yards after catch, is one of the most important stats in the league. If you've got a guy breaking tackles left and right, he's going to be amazing. He's going to be all pro or something like. But great year for the Bengals. This one hurt my heart and hurt my DraftKings wallet. But overall, it was a great weekend. It was tough.
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals defense in the last two games, at Buffalo, at Cincinnati, 33 total points given up. Come on. That's love. I mean, that is love.
Can't ask for much more.
That is amazing. Now we are down to one meaningful NFL game. I guess there's some Pro Bowl stuff going on. I'm not even paying attention to that.
Real quick, speaking of the Pro Bowl, just saw some breaking news. Tyler Huntley is now a Pro Bowl quarterback and set the record for fewest touchdown passes by a quarterback to ever be a Pro Bowler. That's a Tuesday morning special for you. I
That
just saw
is a
that at
lot of
the bottom
QBs
line
pulling out
ticker.
of the game.
Yeah, they say he was like a fourth or fifth alternative because Josh Allen just pulled out. But
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. Guy threw 2 touchdown passes in a freaking Pro Bowler.
All
uh,
righty then. I
sorry to
remember,
interrupt that
I
thought.
know, and it just gives me a thought. In Super Bowl 27,
Uh,
Troy Aikman once threw, and I'm not a big Troy Aikman fan, but he threw 2 touchdown passes in the span of 16 seconds, I think.
wow.
They threw a touchdown pass, got a turnover real quick, and then immediately threw another touchdown pass. So cool. Those 2 plays alone get you into the Pro Bowl. All right.
Tyler
So
Huntley, everyone.
yeah, so that's
Wow.
how much I care about the Pro Bowl. Tyler
That's how
Huntley's in
much the
it.
league cares about the Pro Bowl.
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and do the
Uh,
other bowl. We're gonna do the Super Bowl, and
right.
we've got a great matchup. It's the 2 number 1 seeds in their
Yeah.
conferences, Philly and Kansas City. It is way too early. At time of recording, we're 12 days and 6 hours or so away from kickoff. So we're not going to come out with any kind of big preview or any kind of predictions right now. We just want to touch on some storylines that may be fun. And we picked out 4, and 2 of them are completely obvious, and everyone's talking about them. So you might as well jump on in into. First one is your Kelce Bowl.
Kelce Bowl.
Donna Kelce, big smile on that woman's face. She raised 2 big boys,
Two
Travis
All
Kelce,
Pros,
Jason, two Hall of Famers.
2 Hall of
Yeah,
Famers. Yeah.
future Hall of Famers guaranteed. Both late round picks. Well, mid round pick for Travis, 3rd round pick, Jason, 6th round pick. Both have stayed with their original team that has drafted them, and both have turned themselves into multiple time All Pros, as Steven said, future Hall of Famers. The first time 2 brothers are going to play against each other in the Super Bowl. And I want that distinction because anytime I hear anyone say it's the first time 2 brothers have faced off in the Super Bowl, that's wrong. Why are they wrong?
Is it the McCourties?
It's the Harbaugh. The
The Hardballs.
Harbaugh.
That's right. 2
So
head
the 2 brothers, they
coaches.
coached against each other, which is
Right.
even harder to do. I mean, to have 2 siblings as players in the NFL at the same time isn't so uncommon. How many players are in the NFL at any given time? Like 14, 1,500. There are
Right.
32 head coaches in the NFL at one time. And for 2 of them to be brothers and for 2 of them to face off in the Super Bowl is pretty remarkable. Of course,
That
my
was
Harbaugh, everyone see
right.
the quotes. My Harbaugh lost that game.
That was the lights out Super Bowl.
That was a lights out Super Bowl. Yeah, yes it was. But as far as brothers on a field facing each other, try to put yourself in that Kelce family shoes. What are your feelings?
Right. I mean, as a mom, luckily they're both on offense, so you don't have to worry about like one going directly
Right.
against the other on the field. So from what I've read, she said she's just going to root for the offense.
Yeah.
She just wants a high scoring game. She's not going to root for any defense.
Right.
She's going to root for the Eagles when they're on offense, and then the Chiefs when they're on offense. So
And
that's definitely got to be special, though. I mean, that truly is remarkable.
yeah, I mean, I know the Barber twins, Tiki Rondé, they
Kiki
played in the
Rondé.
same conference, so they could never play against each other in the Super Bowl. But they played against each other, and they got to tackle each other, and they got to hit each other. So it is different to have them on
Yeah, yeah.
both
You had
on
a corner and
offense.
a running back.
Yeah.
That did the McCourties ever play each other? Just out of curiosity, that's who I thought you
No,
were talking about at first.
Devin has
Jason and
been Jason every now and then wasn't a Patriot. He played for the Titans more than any other
okay.
team. I don't think he ever played in the NFC, so they never would have matched up in the Super Bowl.
I didn't know if they were ever on that same Patriots team that went to so many Super Bowls or
Uh,
not.
I'm pretty sure they were at least at some point.
That's
Devin's been a
really cool though.
Patriot. Jason's here and there. It is cool, and I'll tell you what. I don't think she would ever admit this. I'm going to speak for Donna Kelce here for just a minute. That if one of them had a ring and the other one didn't, I think she might be just a little bit more for the kid
Yeah.
without the ring. But they both got one, so yeah, whoever wins is going to bring the family a 3rd ring, and that's going to be neat.
Yeah, I mean this might be a once in a lifetime type of thing.
It
We
might
may
be.
not see this for another 20, 30, 40 years. I mean,
And to
two
top it
brothers
off,
going against each other.
they're both really interesting, cool dudes. I'll
They
never
really are. They
forget.
got a hell of a
Yeah,
podcast.
I'll never forget Jason Kelce after the Super Bowl, coming out looking like Aladdin or something, whatever it was he was going for. And then Travis Kelce, of course, dropped the big old jabroni bomb the other day, which makes me
Yeah.
happy. Because I'll tell you what, for those that don't know, jabroni is, I don't want to say stolen from The Rock, because The Rock kind of stole it from the Iron Sheik, but that's a whole different story. The Rock made it
Right.
what it was.
Yeah.
And when that came out, I was in high school. And yeah, I know you did the same thing. You're a bit younger than
Oh
me, but
yeah.
you call people jabronis.
Everybody. I
It's
had a
just it's a
stepsister.
great encompassing word for
Right.
idiot or whatever it
It really
is.
is. I had a stepsister one time. I'll never forget it as long as because I was a smart mouth little 10-year-old, 12-year-old, calling her jabroni, and she looked at me and said, "What's a japaroni?" And still to this day makes me laugh. But it's going to be a great team. And then there's also more connections between the Chiefs and Eagles that people may not realize. I mean, fill us in.
Right. Well, people are talking about this. It's kind of the Andy Reid Bowl.
The Andy
Uh,
Reid Bowl.
the Andy Reid Bowl, with Andy Reid having coached the Eagles for all those years, got to one Super Bowl, couldn't get to another one. It was kind of a mutual parting of the ways for them. I mean, it was kind of a firing, but it was kind of a, I'm ready to go too. I mean, you reach a certain point where it doesn't
Just
work
couldn't
out. You
quite
leave
get
as
over.
friends. Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't quite get over the hill there, the last little roadblock in Philly for whatever
Mhm.
reason, and
So he,
and
so he went to
go
Kansas
ahead.
City. The Eagles won a Super Bowl without him. Then he won
Yeah.
a Super Bowl without the Eagles. And now they get to play each other. And this is something I didn't know until a couple of days ago, but Philadelphia's head coach, Nick Sirianni, was on the Kansas City Chiefs staff. I believe it was Todd Haley's staff when Andy Reid
Wow.
became the head coach. And Andy Reid let him go. He brought in his own
Wow.
guys. I believe David Culley, who just last 2 seasons ago was let go as Houston Texans head coach. He was kind of Reid's guy. I understand Reid making that pick, and Sirianni must have not felt good about that. And if he has any revenge on the mind, he's got the perfect opportunity for it. He's going to be on the other sideline coaching against Andy Reid in the Super Bowl. So that's going to be interesting. Reid, this is his fourth Super Bowl now. One win,
Wow.
2 losses. And of course, it's Sirianni's second season. So
Yeah.
it's a generational clash. The last time we had that was Belichick McVay. The old
Wow.
man won that one. So check on Andy Reid's column in that particular context only.
Right. No, that's real interesting. I had no idea Sirianni used to work with him, or work for the Chiefs. That's
Mm,
this game really is bringing so many things like full circle and back too, and it's going to be a great matchup. I mean, you got two high-powered offenses, and I mean the number one seed from both divisions or both conferences. What more can you really ask for? It should
right.
be really entertaining, and I'm sure more storylines are going to come out even before then.
Absolutely. But those are the two big ones. We did some
Yeah.
digging around here, and we found a couple of other ones, and one of them is interesting. So it hasn't been announced yet. It won't be announced till next Thursday, but I think we're pretty certain Patrick Mahomes is going to be named NFL MVP.
High
And
likelihood.
yeah, he likely will be. I guess Jalen Hurts is the only person who could even threaten him at this point, which would
Yeah, as
also bring
much.
up, yeah, which would also bring up what we're about to bring up. And we're talking about the record of the NFL MVP in the Super Bowl. And that record is 9-18
Wow.
with 9 straight losses. So 1999, Rams quarterback Kurt Warner was named NFL MVP out of nowhere. That was an out of nowhere MVP as far as the beginning of the season went anyway. And they won the Super Bowl. I'm going to run them down. You ready? 2001, Kurt Warner.
Wow.
2002, Rich Gannon. 2005, Sean
Okay.
Alexander. 2007, Tom Brady. 2009, Peyton Manning. 2013, Peyton Manning. 2015, Cam Newton. 2016, Matt Ryan. 2017, Tom Brady. all
Wow.
lost in the Super Bowl, all named NFL MVP. Why? What do you think? What's your thoughts?
That's unbelievable. You would think, the MVP of the league would have won the Super Bowl more often, but it seems like MVP winners for whatever reason in the big game, maybe their team isn't as good of a team as the other, like trying to think how to explain this.
Yeah, the correlation's interesting. I mean, I don't think there's a right answer. We're
That's
just
that blew my
conjecturing.
mind. Yeah, that blew my mind. I would have definitely thought that the MVP winners would have be at least 500, not 9 games under. Like, wow,
I mean, and they were 500. They were 9-9 until nine straight losses,
9 straight losses.
all in this century.
Wow.
Yeah, in the previous century, they were 9-9. It was
So
kind of
Chiefs
nine
Chiefs
and
fans need to hope that Mahomes
right.
doesn't win.
It's kind of 9 and 8.5. You want to count
Eight and a
that?
half.
97. Brett Favre was co-MVP when the
Oh,
Packers
okay.
lost the Super Bowl, but his name's on the trophy. Uh, so NFL MVP, at
Wow.
least anymore, is basically the quarterback of the team
Yeah.
that's deemed the best in the league. So it's not necessarily the most valuable player that's always winning the award. Now, Mahomes this year, I could make the argument Kelce is more valuable to the Chiefs than Mahomes is.
Right.
Maybe I can't really because Mahomes is Mahomes. He's a unicorn. Anybody that's listened to this show knows my feelings on Mahomes. He is an absolute unicorn. He is the most talented quarterback, not football player, quarterback I've ever seen. And he won the MVP in 2018, and they lost the conference championship game. So he's probably going to win it this year. Rodgers won the last two. Um, so the MVP doesn't necessarily mean your team is good, even though that's
Right.
kind of how they give the award. So that's an interesting little stat. It would break a
Oh,
9-game losing streak, and it would be a first for the century if
wow.
if the Chiefs would win the Super Bowl this year with Patrick Mahomes as MVP. So that's a Chiefs thing. Let's look at an Eagles thing. What
Okay.
do you think, Steve? You think sacking the quarterback's pretty important, right?
Oh, definitely.
I would say it's a huge thing. Uh, Nothing
Eagles
like a
led the
sack.
league.
Yeah, nothing
Right.
like a sack because they lose it down too.
Right.
So incomplete pass, 2nd and 10. Sack, 2nd and 16.
Right.
Even a penalty,
Momentum.
yeah,
Right.
1st and 20. The sack really, a sack can change an entire drive.
Big time.
So in Super Bowl history from 1970, and by the way, I should mention all this is from 1970 with the NFL AFL merger. Like 1966, the Packers won the Super Bowl with Bart Starr as league MVP. The leagues didn't play each other back then. AFL had their own schedule, NFL had their own schedule, and they ran together. So I didn't consider any of that. So from 1970 onward. Now, sacks only became an official statistic in 1982, but Pro Football Reference has done a great job of going back and retroactively assigning sacks. So we're going to go ahead and run with sacks from 1970. How many times would you say in the this is Super Bowl 57, so we're talking about 53 Super Bowls, 106 teams appearing in those Super Bowls. How many times would you say the lead leaguer, the team league leader in sacks even made it to the Super Bowl?
Uh, there's been some great defensive
Mm-hmm.
teams that have gotten after the quarterback. Um, let's go with like 15.
It blew my mind. Blew my mind
No,
8 times.
8.
Eight
Wow,
times.
that's even less than I
That's and
thought.
it blew my mind. I was
Wow.
expecting 15 or so. A lot
Yeah.
of times, you know what? We're talking about leading the league. Like the
Right.
85 Bears, they didn't lead the league in sacks that year. They were the
Wow.
greatest defense that ever existed, but sacks aren't everything as much as we love them, as much as they are important, and we talked about it. But maybe they finished second or third. A lot of teams finished second, like the last few years until this season. The Steelers have either led the league in sacks or tied in 5 straight years.
Wow.
They get after the quarterback. It doesn't mean their
TJ
team,
Watt.
yeah. So literally from 2017 to 2021, the Steelers have either led the league or in 2018 they tied with the Chiefs for the most sacks, and they haven't been translating into Super Bowls. So, and by the way, of those 8 teams, only 5 of them came since sacks became an official statistic.
Wow.
So only 4 teams have ever won the Super Bowl while leading the NFL in sacks. One of them is the Steel Curtain, 1974 Steelers. One of them is amazingly the Rams in 1999. So they had the MVP and they led the league in
Great
sacks
defense.
and took
Wow.
it into a Super Bowl. They actually tied with the Jaguars that year for most sacks. So while only 4 teams have ever done it, at least 2 have done it this century. 2017 New York Giants, when they upset the 16-0 Patriots in the Super Bowl that year, and the 2015 Broncos, which was
Wow.
also a great defense. They were led to the
Von Miller.
Super Bowl, yeah, by that defense, and then they had Peyton Manning's corpse playing quarterback. So poor Peyton, he got beat up in the neck a little bit.
Yeah, he got
But
another ring.
he did what he needed to. He didn't turn the ball over, made a couple of important throws, and that's what you need from quarterbacks most of the time. So it's kind of
Definitely.
crazy. Only 4 teams, and again, one of them was pre-sack, before the stack
Right.
existed. Again, Pro Football Reference has done a great job of retroactively assigning those sacks, just like Pro Baseball Reference went back in time and started assigning saves to pitchers before it became a official stat too. Yeah, these guys, when you have all the time in the world and that's your job, sounds like fun to me. I'd do
No,
it.
yeah, definitely. It's very interesting. I would have thought that more. There's been so many, great defenses throughout the years. You would have definitely thought it would have happened more. And the reason you bring that up because I know Philly led the league this
Uh-huh.
year in sacks. So, it makes you kind of wonder, will they become, I guess, the 5th team in the modern era, basically,
All
to
right.
lead the league in sacks and win the Super Bowl? Wow.
And it's going to be heads up too, because that Philly
Which trend?
defense with the
Right.
MVP on the other side. So somebody's going to get
Right.
one.
Which
Somebody's
trend's
going to get
gonna
one. Yeah.
bust? Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
the Chiefs were second in sacks, by the way. So it may turn out that the Chiefs second in sacks and the Eagles may have the MVP runner up. So it's good. It's a
That's
lot of intertwining storylines going on here, but it should be a good game. It should be a really good game, even if the score isn't necessarily a nail biter, as long as it's not a blowout. The amount of talent on display is going to make this a good game. We're not going to make our picks yet. Um, I know I'm leaning in one direction. I got at least a week to decide if that direction is still where I'm going, or maybe something comes up, something changes. But that's going to be your Super Bowl next week, folks, and we'll be back next week with our predictions. And I think we're going to have some fun with some of the prop bets. We're gonna dive into the props, and each of us are gonna pick the few that we kind of really like. Not that
sure.
we would suggest you bet them. That's up to you.
Right. Only if
Depending on
you're
what
of
state you live
age,
in.
right, and it's legal.
Yeah,
Don't go
depending on.
find a bookie or
Yeah.
nothing like that.
Hey, this is the first Super Bowl where the whole stadium is going to have a sports book in it. So
Wow. I bet
yeah,
that son of a gun's gonna be busy all night
yeah.
long.
So the last 2
You'll have
Super
those
Bowls have been in
people up.
Florida and California. California just seems like is immune to good ideas, and they're not going to ever allow sports betting. They're going to just let their whole populace cross the border into Nevada and take all the money out of California and in Nevada.
Right.
Florida, it's a tough nut to crack with the let's call it the aging population. Is that nice? That's nice, right?
The retirement community.
Yeah, retirement community. So those 2 states are going to be tough to get sports gambling, and a state like Utah probably never will.
Nah, Mormons.
So yeah, so Arizona getting the Super Bowl this year. I'm not even off the top of my head sure who's hosting the game next year. No idea. It's one of
Yeah, I
those
can't
things you don't think
remember where
about
it's
till it
at.
happens. So I couldn't even quite remember that the game was in Arizona most of this season either. So just the last 2 years, the Super Bowl home stadium, the home team actually played in that game. So the reason I remembered Arizona, I'm like, well, that's not happening this year. So
No. In Kyler Murray's dreams.
yeah, well, I'm sure he plays a lot of Xbox and all that. So he can go win the Super Bowl in whatever game he wants to play. I guess it has to be Madden, unfortunately. A game's not what it used to be. But yeah, we're looking forward to that next week. I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Stephen for the rest of the show. Those of you who made it this far, thank you. Now you can hit that like button. I think
Boom,
we
boom,
did you
boom,
okay. I
boom.
think we did you okay this week. Please hit that subscribe button. Please be willing to share the video. We're happy with our numbers. We'd like to see more. I mean, the
Definitely.
NFL gets 40, 50 million people watching their games, and they always want more too. So I don't feel too greedy about that. So from my end, I will say thank you again. We love having you on. We love to hear from you. Steven's going to give you all the information regarding social media and the stuff that I don't know too much about. I'm the video guy. Steve's the internet guy. So Steve, take us away. For me, thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you next week.
All right. Yeah, you can follow us on YouTube at Catching Flies Podcasts. You can see our beautiful faces now for the first time. So hit the like, hit the share, subscribe. It's all free. And we hope to keep bringing you guys fun, entertaining stuff each week. You can follow us on Twitter at Catching Flies W1. And I'm on Facebook, Stephen Burton. Pete's on Facebook. Message us, tell us what you want to hear about. NFL's almost over, so we're going to be, definitely transitioning in the next couple of weeks. So let us know if there's anything you want to hear. And look forward to seeing you next week, So I was trying to think if there's any other announcements real quick. Shout out to Cody Rhodes on winning the Royal Rumble.
Right. I also predict Tyler Huntley to win Pro Bowl MVP.
Huntley for MVP.
Yeah,
wow.
Pro Bowl MVP. Pro Bowl
Watch
MVP.
him have more touchdown passes in this
that game
than he did the rest of the season. I had to get that out. I saw that.
No, that's fine. No, we're having fun with it.
Jeez. Yeah, like, subscribe, and share, guys, and we'll see you next week here on the Catching Flies podcast. Go catch a fly.